Government didn't jump. The Minister for Forest is a bit reluctant.
Yeah, well, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm actually pleased to rise on my feet this morning and speak on this matter of public importance. It was my intention, however, following the heckling just then from the Leader of the Greens, which I don't appreciate, that I was intending to speak following the Member of Government, because I'm always interested in learning from and hearing about the government's position on such matters. There is nothing more, I think, deep or ingrained in the bodies of all Tasmanians. That is the love that we have for this island, the love that we have for the places, the love that we have and the access that we have. How extraordinary that in Tasmania, as a mum and someone that grew up on this island, that we get to explore and enjoy these incredible places that are loved across the world. And I find it curious that in this place, and I sidestep just for a minute because it happened again this morning, that the government, when challenged on things and are a little uncomfortable, go, oh, don't be so negative. But in fact, it's in those moments when people are challenged and uncomfortable that you know there's something to it. And I find it difficult to accept that the Greens Party here in Tasmania can think of nothing more than to undermine and diminish the incredible international reputation that we have and the things that we share with the rest of the world about why it is so extraordinary, and I can't exactly remember the comments of Brand Tasmania, but, come down for the quiet pursuit of the extraordinary, that we invite people here to explore and experience our wild places, because it is something that most of us are really proud of and want to speak about positively, that we want to share with others. When people come from other parts of the country to visit us, they come and stay with you as family, you take them out to places to enjoy the forests of Tasmania. It's not only for enjoyment, but it can also be for wonderful other ways of sharing what is Tasmania. I didn't share in my reply, but in my first speech I shared that I'm a furniture designer by trade. I have grown up making things with my hands from the beautiful timbers of Tasmania. I have a special connection with the forests of Tasmania in that way. I moved to Sydney to set up my studio. I had a business making furniture in Sydney to share works from Tasmania with the rest of the country and the world. So it's not much more embedded than it is in my life and my world that we should care for the forests of Tasmania. But what I want to do, because it's really important, and I've set the mark yesterday when I spoke in my first speech in the reply, that I want to base comments in this place on fact. So I want to read into the Hansard a few facts about the forests of Tasmania and what we have done in the past to protect the forests of Tasmania. For those listening or forever reading Hansard, Tasmania has a total land mass of approximately 6.8 million hectares, of which nearly half, 3.33 million hectares or 49%, is forested. Native forests make up 91% of this and plantations 9%. What is interesting is that 59% of Tasmania's native forests, 1.79 million hectares, are protected in reserves, of which includes well over 80% of Tasmanians' old growth forests. So in this place, there's always these comments, why do you want to cut it down? Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do that? But the reality is that Tasmania went through an extraordinary process to come to an agreement to say, how do we want to care for, look after and manage productively and for experience and enjoyment the forests of Tasmania? There is much done by many. I don't just stand here as shadow for environment, I stand here as shadow for parks. I also stand here as shadow for primary industries, where there's a lot of private forests on farming land across Tasmania. And I don't know anyone in Tasmania that doesn't love, care for or not proud of those great natural assets that we have in Tasmania. And we came to an agreement many, many years ago about how those wild places would be looked after and managed and how they would be divided to ensure that we could have a sustainable industry going forward where we could continue to do incredible things like use Tasmanian timbers to build things instead of, and I know that it was commented about yesterday, and people forget that if we don't have a productive and sustainable timber industry in Tasmania, then where will timber come from for the things that we need need it for our places and our buildings in Tasmania. I know that there is a lot of shift in construction in Tasmania at the moment to using timber because of the benefits of that to Tasmania. But if not using Tasmanian timbers appropriately and respectfully and responsibly, then where do those timbers come from? So I stand proudly today to support the Tasmanian forest and to say that we look after it well. The many people of Tasmania that are tasked with that responsibility care passionately, as all members of this chamber do.